The other day, someone asked me how old I was. I said, I'm 68. And they immediately replied, wow, you don't look that age. I smiled. I said, thank you, probably looking a little puzzled. But afterward, I caught myself wondering, what is 68 supposed to look like anyway? And why did that comment bother me so much? After all, I'm pretty sure it was meant as a compliment. But here's the thing, that wondering, that uncertainty, I know I'm not alone in it. So many women I've coached have told me that somewhere around midlife, often in their early 50s, they started feeling less sure of themselves, invisible, sometimes even irrelevant. I think a lot of us in midlife are asking questions like, do I still matter? Do I still belong? Who am I now? Because we live in a culture that tells women that aging is something to fight against instead of something to honor. Today, I want to talk honestly about that, about the pressure women feel to stay youthful and the shame so many women feel about aging, because I think it's time we flip the script on all of it so we stop feeling like we have to minimize ourselves as we grow older. For those of you who are here for the first time, I'm Deedee and this is Follow Your Lighthouse. Let's begin. So that little flinch from being asked my age, I've really kept coming back to it because I noticed something. I hesitated before I said, I'm 68, almost like I was bracing myself for a reaction. Honestly, it was as much my own reaction I was bracing for as it was theirs. And there's a term for that, internalized ageism. It sneaks in unannounced and looms in the background. And I don't think I'm alone in feeling that way. So many of us absorb these messages over time that getting older somehow makes us less visible, less relevant, less valuable. Even some of the labels can feel uncomfortable. Senior, boomer, past your prime. And if we're honest, those words often conjure up an image many women don't want to identify with. But here's the problem. None of those labels actually describe who you are. They don't capture your lived experience, your wisdom, your grief, your growth, or the woman you've become. And I think there's a real price to be paid when we reduce ourselves to cultural labels instead of honoring the fullness of who we are. So where does all of this come from? Before I get into that, if any of this is hitting home, I created something to help you reconnect with yourself. It's called the 72-Hour Compass Reset. 3 days, 10 minutes a day, a short daily video and reflection guide to help you see more clearly what's been weighing on you and reconnect with who you are beneath the labels, the expectations, and the noise. It's free, and the link is in the description below. Now, let's keep going. We live in a culture that worships youth, and there's a lot of money tied to that. The beauty industry, fashion, wellness, media, advertising. There's a lot of profit from women believing their value is somehow tied to looking younger, acting younger, and continuing to spend money trying to maintain it. We're constantly surrounded by messages about anti-aging, age-defying, turning back the clock. And over time, those messages start shaping how we see ourselves. In the way we question our worth, the way we second-guess ourselves, the way we start feeling pressure to stay youthful in order to remain desirable, relevant, or valued. And before we even realize it, we begin measuring ourselves against impossible standards that were never designed to honor women as they age. Not because these stages of life are anything to be ashamed of, but because our culture often treats aging like decline instead of evolution. And I think as women, we absorb that more deeply than we realize, which is why the most important relationship we have to rebuild is the relationship we have with ourselves and how we see ourselves, not from the outside in, but from the inside out. You see, I think there's a real price women pay when we willingly or not so willingly go along with all of this. when we smile politely and say thank you like I did, when we hide our age, when we shrink ourselves to fit cultural expectations, we participate in our own erasure. And honestly, it's exhausting. It's like constantly swimming against the current, trying to stay relevant in a culture that keeps moving the finish line. But it doesn't just affect us. It sends a message to younger women too, that aging is something to fear, something to hide and avoid, something that makes you somehow less valuable. And I reject that, because women in this stage of life, in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, well, we're not past our prime. We're just coming into it. In fact, many of us are finally ready to step into the most honest chapter of our lives. And yet, so many of us are made to feel like we've already peaked. I don't believe that for a second. I feel more like myself now than I ever have. I'm more comfortable speaking up, more comfortable being seen as who I am, even more comfortable leaving the house without makeup. And I'm no longer willing to trade my confidence and sense of worth just to fit in. That feels freeing. Maybe that's what aging is really offering us. And this is the part that's become clear. Our lived experience is not baggage, it's a credential. The wisdom women earn over decades is not something to minimize, manage, or even apologize for. In fact, it's something to lead with. I completed my MBA at the age of 57. I launched Follow Your Lighthouse at 67. So no, I don't believe I'm at my ceiling, and I don't believe other women are either. I think this chapter of life can be a launch point, not the end of the road, because I'm no longer willing to shape myself around who society says I'm supposed to be. If you've ever hesitated before sharing your age, you're not alone. And maybe that hesitation is worth paying attention to. Where did it come from? Who taught us that getting older was something women were supposed to hide from or even apologize for? And who really benefits from us buying into it? What would it feel like to say your age out loud, not as a confession, but as a declaration you're proud of? In midlife, it's time to stop apologizing for getting older, to stop measuring our value and our worth against a culture obsessed with youth, and instead to honor who we've become, to recognize that wisdom, clarity, self-awareness, resilience, and lived experience are strengths, not liabilities. Maybe this stage of life is finally about being more fully ourselves, and maybe there's no more time to waste staying small, silent, or invisible. Now, if this resonated with you, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever felt uncomfortable saying your age out loud? And what could change if you stopped apologizing for it? Tell me in the comments, because I have a feeling this is a conversation far more women are having silently than openly. And maybe it's time we started talking about it out loud. Your age isn't something to explain or justify. It's something to own, something to honor, something to be proud of, because the life you've lived gives you wisdom, depth, perspective, and credibility. This season of life isn't asking you to shrink. It's asking you to trust who you've become. Remember, just keep turning toward your own light, because every small, steady step you take in the direction of clarity and courage is already guiding you home. Take care, and I will see you soon.